Hi, I'm Pam, and I'm here to talk about video games. Today I'm continuing with my top 100 games of all time, this time covering numbers 95 to 91. 95 is an arcade game I used to play at my local bar.
Maximum Force was developed by Mesa Logic and released for arcade in 1997. It's a light gun shooter where you have to shoot terrorists while avoiding shooting hostages. The game uses digitized video of people and pre-rendered 3D backgrounds. I used to play this at a local bar. It was one of those places where I ran into everyone I knew. People I worked with at the bookstore, people I went to high school with, even the bouncers knew my name. Shortly after reaching drinking age, I frequented this place a lot. I'd go with friends to dance and have some drinks, but I always felt the pull of that Maximum Force arcade machine. My friend Mel and I used to play together and just jam that thing full of quarters. As far as light gun games go, this one is pretty much what you'd expect, but memories of playing until my arms were sore while Hot in Here and Whenever Wherever played give it a special place in my heart.
Next is something I spent a lot of time playing alone. Since it's based on a board game meant for 2 to 8 people, that's kinda sad.
Monopoly, first made by Parker Brothers in 1935, has received over a dozen different video game adaptations, but the best is one of the earliest, Monopoly on NES, which was released in 1991. I've always loved board games, and this let me play one without the hassle of having to be with other people. It lets you pick your token and 1 to 7 rich-looking assholes to play against. The classic tokens are there. I was always the horse. The game is presented so well. Though newer versions of Monopoly may have fancier, more advanced graphics, it's a board game. Sometimes simpler is better. The animations and sound effects on NES are so well done. Everything from the sound of dice rolling to the menu music to the very dramatic auction process is great. The tokens are animated as they move along the board. You hear train sounds when you land on a railroad. These were always my favorite. And you hear construction sounds when you build a house. No other Monopoly game has managed to keep my interest even long enough to finish one game. There are even scenarios to play when the basic game gets old.
93 is the recent sequel of the game that inspired the Fallout series.
Wasteland II was developed by inXile and released for PC in 2014, a whopping 26 years after the original Wasteland. It's also since come out for console, but why would you want to play a CRPG on console? Wasteland 2 takes place after a nuclear war. You control a squad of desert rangers who are out to secure the wasteland and help other survivors. On the journey, you'll investigate a murder, come across artificial intelligence and homicidal priests, and have to make some tough decisions about who to side with, who to help, and who to destroy. This isn't the most polished CRPG that's on this list, there are a lot more coming, but I really enjoyed the story, setting, and turn-based combat. One of the most endearing things about it is that it's full of Easter eggs that reference toys and pop culture from the 80s and 90s. You come across Atari cartridges buried in the desert, a power glove, Max Rockatansky's car. The item that got me right in the feels was a Teddy Ruxpin doll. I had one of those talking dolls when I was a child, but never could find a grubby that would work. If you're like me and wish Fallout had stayed an isometric CRPG rather than go open world, give Wasteland 2 a shot.
92 is the unappreciated middle child of a very popular series that doesn't always get the respect I think it deserves.
Bioshock II was developed by 2K Marin and released on multiple platforms in 2010. The original Bioshock made quite the splash in 2007, and the philosophies it tackled were much discussed. And though Bioshock 2 was also reviewed quite well, some saw it as too similar or not quite as interesting as the original. However, I think the game does a great job on expanding the world the original set up. While the first game was a critique of Andrew Ryan's ostentatious objectivism and self-interest, the second game tackles the opposite ideals. Sophia Lamb's focus on pure altruism. The idea of a leader who creates a utopia by understanding everyone's experiences and needs sounds great, but in practice, being able to empathize with every single person's desires is enough to drive one mad. The game also has a cool take on the trend of father figures protecting daughters in games. In this one, you play a big daddy, protecting little sisters. But this is no lean Clementine type relationship. In Bioshock II, you're a monster who does a whole lot of murder while your creepy pale daughter extracts blood from corpses and uses the parasite living in her stomach to convert it to Adam. There's no loving relationship here. It's just what both of you have been designed to do. Aside from story, Rapture is as beautiful and haunting as ever, and combat-wise, this is superior to the original in pretty much every way. There's nothing like unleashing a good insect swarm on your enemies.
And last for this episode is a resource management and survival game that takes place in a war-torn country.
This War of Mine was developed by 11-Bit Studios and released in 2014. It was inspired by the Siege of Sarajevo and focuses on war from a civilian perspective. You play the game as a number of different civilians who have banded together in an abandoned house to try to wait out the war. You need to find food, medicine in case anyone gets sick or hurt, and fuel to keep warm. There's a crafting system that lets you build things that will help you survive. Everything from beds and stoves, to weapons and ammo, to contraptions that can help you create your own materials. You can also build a radio, which gives not only the comfort of music, but also news which can help you be prepared for what's coming next, be it cold weather or roving thieves. The gameplay is fairly simple, but involves a lot of decision-making. Who goes out to scavenge at night? Who stays home to protect your property from raiders? When do they sleep? Do you steal food from others who need it, or wander further from home to scavenge, which is more risky? Do you burn books when it starts to get cold and you're out of wood? This isn't what I'd call a fun game, as a lot of it is meant to make the player uncomfortable, but I really enjoyed playing it. Part of the appeal of video games is that they can take us to places we've never been, and that includes places we'd never want to be.
That's all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed these choices and that you'll join me for the next ones.
If you missed it, check out the start of this series, or another one of my videos here. I also have a Patreon if you feel like supporting me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.